So now let's talk about murder, one of the most feared violent crimes there are. And people are very afraid of being a victim of a homicide. And I think that's one of the reasons why murder fascinates people so much, because we try to figure out what it is in a person that makes them take another person's life with wanton disregard. And wanton disregard means that you have no respect for human life and you seek to inflict serious damage against them. So, murder refers to, and I'm looking at your slide here, the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. And again, malice aforethought means wanton disregard for the person's life and a willingness to inflict serious injury to the point of death. Now, these are the varying degrees of homicide or murder. First degree murder refers to the premeditated and deliberate act of killing. It involves planning or thinking ahead of time of taking a person's life. So the person planned to kill. And there's a lapse between the time that a person thinks about killing and then actual carrying out the homicide. So you planned in advance to take another person's life. You trying to get out? My doggy is trying to get out. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, girl. There you go. She likes to hang out with me, and then I guess when I'm talking about murder, she gets so disturbed she wants out. Okay, so first degree murder involves planning. And then second degree murder. Malice aforethought, again, a wanton disregard for the victim's life, but it's not premeditated. So second degree murder would be someone committing a robbery and going into that robbery not intending to kill, but they think before they leave, wait a minute, we got witnesses here. We got to eliminate the witnesses. So after the fact, they decide to kill. Or they broke into someone's house and they didn't know that someone would be there. And then when they discover that there were occupants in the home, they kill everybody. But the intent was not to kill. The intent was to rob, and killing came after the fact. And then there's felony murder. So felony murder is murder that occurs in conjunction with another crime, such as robbery or rape. So when a person is charged with felony murder, it allows the prosecutor to prosecute them for two crimes at once. So rape and murder, robbery and murder. So just like the person who, let's say, robbed a Taco Bell and killed people at a Taco Bell, he wanted to eliminate witnesses. He may be charged with second degree murder, but also felony murder. So he'll be charged with both the robbery and the homicide. So let me just say something that's very interesting about second degree murder, especially when it comes to domestic violence. If a man kills his wife in the act of a violent assault, he will oftentimes be charged with second degree murder because he could always say that, I was beating her up and I just lost control. I didn't mean to kill her. It just happened. Or I was choking her and I didn't mean to strangle her to death, but it just happened. But when a woman is charged with killing her husband, oftentimes she's charged with first degree murder. So why do you think that is? And if we were in class, I would ask you that question. Well, one of the more common reasons for why that is oftentimes women will kill a man when the violence has ended. So when he's asleep or his back is turned, or she surprises him when he comes home and shoots him to death. She planned it in advance. And for very obvious reason, she had to, because men are bigger and they're stronger. So if he's beating her up or he's assaulting her and she grabs a weapon, if he takes that weapon from her, he could use it against her. So it wouldn't be safe for her to grab a knife or a gun or something like that when he's actively attacking her. A lot of times she'll wait until he's asleep and then she'll attack. Like the story The Burning Bed, where Francine, I think her name was Francine Farmer, she waited until her husband was asleep. And then, what was it, Francine Brown? I hate to forget names, but The Burning Bed is a rather famous story of domestic violence where a woman burned her husband to death. She waited until he was asleep, and then she poured gasoline around the bed and she set the match. She was charged with first degree murder. And then there's manslaughter. So there's two types of manslaughter. There's voluntary non-negligent, that is committed in the heat of passion or an argument. So sometimes a person might be charged with both second degree and voluntary manslaughter. So the jury, if they choose not to find them guilty of second-degree murder, they can charge them or convict them on voluntary manslaughter. So someone had a fight and they hit someone and they fell and hit their head and they died from the injury. That's an example of voluntary manslaughter. And then there is involuntary or negligent manslaughter, which refers to actions that are negligent and without regard of possible harm to others, like drunk driving. If you get in a vehicle and you're under the influence of alcohol and you're slurring and you can barely see in front of you, but you get behind a wheel and you're trying to make your way home and you kill someone, you may be charged with involuntary manslaughter. You may not have meant to kill anyone, but there was a disregard for possible harm. This is why we say don't drink and drive, because you could in fact kill someone. If you have a gun and you decide to just fire it in the air, well, bullets go up, but they got to come down too. And if that bullet comes down and it hits someone and kills them, you could be charged with involuntary manslaughter because there's a wanton disregard of the possible harm to others.